Welcome back to episode 24 of the expansion franchise series, the Nashville Stars. In last episode, we were able to get through All-Star Weekend, and we got to showcase some of our top future stars in the game. It was pretty impressive. We also saw some other players around there. And as we get out of the All-Star break, we'll go on a 3-game win streak, so hopefully that spells good things down the line. But that's not really the focus of this episode. This episode, we're going to be getting to the end of July, which means we are coming up fast on the trade deadline and also signing some of our top drafted prospects over the next few weeks. So towards the middle or even into the episode, we'll cover some of that and see what we did and how well we did and see where the guys placed that we drafted. Along with that, we need to go ahead and decide on some of our contract extensions for this season. We have a few guys that we do want to bring back. The first notable one is going to be Pete Fairbanks. He's had 2 good seasons the last few years. This year is even better than last year, or it's tracking to be better than last season. He has a sub 2.5 ERA, the whip around 1.17, which looks to be almost career lows. Well, not career lows, but close to it outside of that 2022 season where he had a 0.67. So he's having a good year this year. He is regressing a little bit around the edges, so hopefully we can stay that off. It just depends on the right deal. If we get him for maybe another 2 years for a cheap discount, we might bring him back. Gregory Soto, we signed to a 1-year deal last year, and we're probably going to sign him back as well. He's a big lefty that comes out of the bullpen in a setup position. He's been pretty good this year, a 3.05 ERA, a whip around 1, and he's been very dominant coming out of the bullpen. And then the one we are most interested, intrigued by is Nolan Jones. We traded for him just a few months ago. At 2 episodes, I think we kind of covered him in depth and went through more of in-depth playthrough with him, so go check that out if you want to. But we're here with him. He's had a 298 average this season, and he has an 899 OPS. But my concern is that he's going to start or fall off next season. If you look back in the last few seasons, he had a 264 last season, a 274 the season before, and then a 234, and it just gets worse from there. 2023 was an amazing year, but it took him a while to get back to those standards this season. He is almost a 3-WAR player this year, and we still have half a season to go. So he's been very, very good. And if he can keep this up through the rest of the season and into next year, he'll be a very vital bat for us in the middle of the lineup. But that is our biggest concern. So we may hold off on him for now. And then the rest of these guys are a bunch of younger guys that are, arbitration eligible or still on the renewal contract. So we'll probably won't sign them to longer term deal. We may sign one of the younger guys like Chris Patton. He's in the MLB rotation so far this year, and he's been pretty solid for a guy that has, getting his first glimpse of the major leagues. He's gone 63 2/3 innings, has a whip around 1.5, which seems like it has bloated in the last few games. But to start off out of the AAA ranks, he did very good. His second game against the Mets, he had a little bit of a bloated ERA, but his first game, he was very, very dominant. Only allowed 1 run, I do believe. So he might be tracking to be a Rookie of the Year candidate next season since we brought it up later in the season. So we'll get through this a little bit down the line. We'll also get to the trade deadline and get into our top prospects and see how we did. And also we'll take a look around the trade block and see what we want to do and see if we want to trade for anybody. We aren't too far out of the wild card conversation. We still have 62 games to work with, and we're only 8.5 games out. And we just went on a 3-game win streak. If we can keep pushing the last 10 up to, 7-3, 8-2, something like that, we'll be able to claw back very, very quickly. But that may not be the best case scenario for us. We may just kind of want to sacrifice this year and look ahead to next season. But we'll let the next few weeks play out, and we'll see how we want to go about that. So let's go ahead and jump into some moments that we got through over the next few weeks when we simulated and see how it all pans out coming into the trade deadline. And our first moment of the showcase is going to be against the Pirates, and Paul Skeens is going to be on the mound, but he's in a little bit of hot water as the bases are loaded. But David Hamilton is on to bat to face him in the bottom of the 6th. We just need a 1 hit here to tie this game up. And the first pitch, he swings and misses. Another nasty pitch, the curveball at the knees. Pitch number 3 will be strike 3 in a row as Hamilton is sat down. As Paul Skeens gets out of the jam, fired up to keep the Pirates up 2. But soon thereafter, Luke Raley will go deep to give us a 3-2 lead. And Soto is on to get the save, but Keith botches it at second. And that will be an error on the play. They'll record it as a base hit. That was most likely an error in my opinion, but it doesn't matter. But O'Neal Cruz with the butt to Keith again, and he's not able to field it quick enough. And the speedy Cruz will make it down the line to give them the tying run. Third time to Keith. This time he'll turn and throw it to Hamilton. And we'll get the double play to get out of the inning. But not before this game goes even. On to the bottom of the eighth. We'll stay on here with Edgar Caro, who looks at that first pitch, the 100-mile-per-hour heater above the head for ball number one. Caro's 0 for 3 today. Hasn't had the greatest year so far, batting around 210 as he swings and misses there on the nasty slider inside on the knees. And he was more of a fill-in spot. He's probably a little bit rushed into his position as he will get plunked and take the base on a hit by pitch. But we probably did rush Caro slightly. Would have loved to see him get maybe 1 to 2 more seasons down in the minors just to give him a little bit more development time. But this one was out of necessity. We brought him up to fill in the, split role with Joey Bart as Victor Robles upset after that nasty slider running away from the righty to strike him out. Colt Keith up now, third batter we've seen this inning, and he'll go up the middle into center field as the 2 runners will round third. And we will take a 2-run lead off of a nice hit by Keith. What a clutch way to come in and get a big hit. Not the greatest batter against righties, has way more ability against lefties, but he comes through in a big situation as the Pirates will come on to relieve their pitcher, and Stephen Morris, who's had a good year so far, will come on. 72 innings of work so far this season, and he's a 2025 draft pick as the Pirates have done well. The 2027 Rookie of the Year as well out of the relief pitching role, so he must have an insanely impressive season last year. Nolan Jones on this time, but right back to Morris on the mound as the Pirates will get out of it with 2 given up here in the bottom of the 8th. And the boys will stay on to win against the Pirates to continue that 4-game win streak after the All-Star break. But back up here for another game against the Pirates, on to the second game of the series, looking to extend that win streak to 5 games. We'll be facing the menacing Edwin Diaz on the bump, leads the NL with saves as Josh Naylor goes deep to center, but it is not deep enough to clear the fence. Out number 1 on a high 2-seamer. He'll get the fly out. Diaz back again, but this one goes past the catcher. A pass ball will move Smith into scoring position. Only 180 feet away as Josh Smith gets walked here to put 2 on. Winning run at first now as DeLuca's going to lay down a bunt. Does he have it? He does. He's able to leg it out at first. And the bases are juiced as the 8-hole hitter David Hamilton will come up for another chance. Bases juiced. This time goes deep to right field in the deepest part of the park. And he'll score 1 as Luke Raley will come across to give us the tie here, 3-3. With only 2 outs or 1 out remaining, as they will pull Diaz after he gave up that sac fly, and they'll go to Colin Holderman. One of the deepest picks I've ever seen, round 96, but this one at second base should be an easy play, but he botches it, and the error will allow Smith to score, and the boys continue the win streak against the Pirates, who are honestly at this point in time one of the best teams in the league. They hold the first spot in their division in the Central, but they drop 2 here in a row to the Stars, who are battling for a wild card spot in the NL. On to situation number 3, another bases loaded situation, but this time to the other team as Hunter Harvey, who's been a godsend this season, but Hoskins will take him almost deep. But too early on, it comes back with the splitter as Harvey strikes him out to get out of the game there. As Jones is the player of the game, 2 for 3, homer with 3 RBIs, pretty much all of our offense today. But after an eventful and impressive month of July, we will step into August. And the first look we'll get at the draft prospects we just drafted. The first one on the board is Tyler Brady. He looks to be pretty decent, 65 overall. Would have loved to see him be a little bit higher for a top 7 pick. But honestly, as an 18-year-old with B potential, he'll be more than serviceable down the line. He'll just need a few years to develop, so he may not be able to the majors for a while. Then John Rangel is going to be our number 2 pick here. The second round pick, he'll be a little bit worse in overall, but has decent potential at 87. He's a little older, 20 years old. He'll have to have time to develop for sure, but his pitch mix is a little interesting. Has 3 different types of fastballs and then a big curveball to round it out. Edmund Trout, the catcher we drafted, doesn't look to be too hot. 75 potential on the lower end of the threshold, but we just drafted him to give us some depth. And then Abraham Feliciano, another starting pitcher, looks to be pretty decent. 19 years old, 62 overall, has a potential, and he will highlight our top prospects in the organization coming in next season. A 3rd round pick. We seem to have been getting some good, decent starting pitchers later into the mid-round, so that's a pretty good thing to see. Hopefully we can keep that going into the next seasons. Stephen Thomas, another starting pitcher. Ethan Hutchinson, another relief pitcher that we've drafted, and we've been really good at drafting some decent relief pitchers later in the draft. This year we kind of missed. 18 years old, 60 overall, with only 76 potential, not the greatest in the world. And then Frederick Lamb, we just took a swing here, and honestly, not the worst thing in the world. He's in the lower 50s. He's not going to be somebody that's going to probably play in down the line, but he does have decent potential, so he has the capability to get somewhere up in the organization later on. But something I've been wanting to do is cover the draft picks before ours, and the first one here is going to be Javier Diaz, the number 1 draft pick in this class. He looks to be pretty good, but for a number 1 draft pick, a little low in the overall. You would love to see that higher, maybe 78, 77. 85 potential, not bad, but with a lot of prospects, you'll see it's pretty much even distribution amongst their stats, so he'll have pretty low fielding, pretty low speed, but he does have very good contact against righties, and he can play anywhere in the infield. We didn't have a chance to see him because he went 1-1, so it's not like we missed on him like someone later in the draft will show in a second. And then the second overall pick is Barry Pierce, who actually went below his scouted potential at 68, and he was an absolute miss. The center fielder at 21 years old was going to be a massive bust for the Blue Jays. This was somebody that I think they went really far down into the ranks to get. I'm not sure why they did that. I guess they thought they had somebody that nobody else saw, but he's going to be a terrible player. And the Blue Jays, who got blessed with moving like 3 or 4 positions up in the draft during the offseason, is going to swing and miss on this one. And then at the 3rd pick is going to be Carlos Benitez, who's honestly serviceable in terms of overall, but his potential is miserable. 74. He has very good bat-to-ball skills, 73 plus contact both ways, and he has some decent speed. So he'd be a good leadoff guy, except for the fact that he can't field. And as a left fielder, that may be pretty critical. The 18-year-old also can't play center. You can develop that probably down the line, but he's a corner outfielder. He's 5'11". Again, he looks to be decent, but with only C potential at 74, it doesn't look like he's going to play a big effect down the line for the Rockies. But as we get to the Rangers, they had the 4th pick, and they got Jose Garcia, who's the best pick so far. 89 potential with 72 overall. Very good against righties, as he's a lefty batter. 6'3", 18 years old. Is going to have a ton of time to develop to possibly backfield for Corey Seager down the line. We would have loved to get him. He was somebody we had on our big board. We just couldn't see him slide a couple more picks. And then on to the 5th pick, the Nationals, an in-division rivals, and this gives me so much joy seeing them miss here. Tyrell Collum was a starting pitcher who was slated to go, I think, 1 or 2 in the draft by MLB, but when we scouted him, they dropped to like 30 or 50 or something way down there, and we see why. The 21-year-old has 74 potential, 58 overall, has really good velocity, runs it up really, really high, 99 all the way, but everything else is just abysmal, below par, and kind of what you want to see. So they miss really big here, but their 2nd round pick wasn't too bad. Hideki Amasa, the closing pitcher, the 22-year-old, has 92 potential and 71 overall, so they kind of made up with it, but they definitely missed with their, I think, 4th or 5th top 5 draft pick in a row. And then we'll come to the White Sox, who just keep on swinging and missing. Brian Gonzalez, a starting pitcher. This was the other guy that was slated to go, top 1 or top 2 that fell, to 30th plus or whatever. 67 potential, 69 overall. So his overall is already higher than his potential, and they miss big here. He has decent stats. His hits per 9, walks per 9 aren't too terrible, but that Ks per 9 is just abysmal. The The control's not there. The pitching clutch isn't great. The velocity's all right, but he just doesn't have the potential to develop down the line, and they miss again, and they don't really have anybody to back him up down here. So it's pretty unfortunate for them. We've already seen our picks, but the pick after us, number 8, was Eloy Ferreira. And if you all remember, we discussed getting him here. The other option we have is Eloy Ferreira, and he looks to be okay as well. We have him as number 2 on our big board, but he just doesn't have the bat to ball skills that we see in Brady. So I just don't think it's going to be that great of a pick. He's a faster player, probably a little bit better fielding as well, but I think we want a better bat. We didn't. We got Brady instead, and we chose to pass on Eloy, and we will be regretting that for a long time coming. He's 81 overall, 99 potential, 97 speed. He could be a day one player at shortstop for us, a position we wanted to fill so badly to backfill Hamilton, and we just don't. It's really frustrating. Has very good fielding too. Would have loved to see him in the light baby blue jerseys in Nashville. We miss here, which is really, really unfortunate. But outside of that, I think we did pretty good, and we'll just go ahead and kind of, get through some of these top draft picks and let you all see them. But I think we did pretty decent. Also, albeit after not getting, one of the best draft picks, a generational pick that we haven't seen in some time. But outside of that, our, second, third, fourth, and fifth draft picks were really good. So I'm not too upset. It's so disheartening seeing a top player go the pick after yours. It wasn't even like he was, hidden down there. He was somebody we looked at and we just passed on. So let's go ahead and get back to the season and catch up on some things we missed the last few weeks. So as we get into September, we had the chance to sign some contract extensions. You can see here we still have Nolan Jones on the board, and that is because he is asking for an insane amount of money, $17.5 million for a 5-year deal, and that was kind of where we were looking at to sign. He's hitting almost 300 this year, so it's not like he's doing bad per se, and he's really progressing very well, and he can play a couple different positions around the field. I just don't foresee this being a year-to-year thing. I mean, the last 4 seasons, we'll see his numbers be, well below, 20 points below what they are this season. So is this a turn of events? Has he progressed to a point where he can do this every season? I'm not exactly sure. And that's why we're not going to sign him here. We may try to go after him in free agency, but we also have a ton of guys coming up the ranks behind him, like some of our top prospects like Ray McAllister and Johnny Dale, 2 guys that could be, mid 80s in the next few years. And we need a spot for them. So it may not fit us to even bring him back. So we may save some money, offer some of these guys some contracts, maybe get a fill-in guy for next year. But we'll see during the offseason. So we're not going to bring back Nolan Jones, but a couple guys we did sign to some renewal deals. One of them is going to be Pete Fairbanks. We're going to sign him for 2 more seasons for $8.5 million after he was signed for 2 years for $7 million. And honestly, I think it's worthwhile. He'll be 36 at the end of the contract. He's gotten better the last season than he was the year before, the first year with Nashville. So I think if he gets, stays the same or even regresses to, 2027 numbers, I think that'll still be very sufficient for us. He had 36 saves. Could have had more. He blew 7 that year. Possibly could have even had more than, more opportunities if we were in chances to give him that. And I think with the roster we're building now, we'll give him those in the next few seasons. And then the second guy we signed back is our top reliever, the lefty. He's going to be coming back for another few seasons. We signed him for a 2-year deal for 6.4. We only signed him for 1 year last year out of free agency. So we're going to go ahead and get him on the books for the next couple years. And I think it's a good deal. He's sub 3 RA the last 2 seasons. If he can just, hang around those numbers, sub 1.3 whip the last 2 seasons as well. He's only 33, so he still has, time to keep those, attributes at the level or even progress him a little bit. So I'm pretty excited about signing him back for a pretty cheap deal, albeit. But after the contract extensions, you can see here, we are 3rd place in the division. We're going pretty good, 7 games under 500, 11 games out of the lead of the division. Don't really think we're going to win that. I don't think we're going to come back at any point, but the wild card is still up for grabs. We're only a handful of games back. The teams that we are looking at right now, the Giants are 1 place out, 3-7 in their last 10. The Brewers are 5-5. So are the Mets and Cubs. We're 6-4, but we even had a better little streak earlier in the month of July. This 3rd week in July, we went 5-1. And that last weekend, we went 3-3 the week before. So we were on like a, almost a 6 or 7 game win streak at one point. So I think we have the best opportunity now to kind of try to take a stab. We didn't trade for anybody. We thought about doing it, but I just think this core is good enough to make a run if we can just, get some things to fall our way, I think we'll have a big opportunity to push for a playoff spot. And the reason why we're kind of surging right now is because we have a couple guys that are hot. We have Victor Robles, who's got his average up to 283. Looks to be very good. The slugging at 460, almost an 800 OPS player, which would be his best total since 2024. And then Cole Keith also having a decent year at 244. The average a little lower, but he's still doing pretty well. Hitting some homers, a plus 700 player. Nolan Jones, well, we spoke on him before. Amazing, 23 homers this year, a 531 slugging, good enough for a 909 OPS, the best on the team. And then Luke Raley has been an absolute godsend as well. Almost a 300 average, even though he's regressing in basically all categories. He's 33 years old. He's dipping down his overall, but he's keeping strong here with his career best in average slugging OPS. It's been an amazing year to see from the older first baseman who's our DH or a left fielder typically. And then moving down this list, Josh Naylor has kind of fallen off a little bit. He's regressing a little bit. He's in his 9th year of service. He's only 30 years old, though, so it's pretty unfortunate to see him regressing this early if it's continued to be a trend. He hasn't hit above 800 OPS here with Nashville. I was hoping to see those numbers kind of pop back up closer to his first year, even his second year numbers, but they just haven't been. And he's really fallen off 40 points off of his average from last year, and this is not going to cut it. And then we can move down the rest of this list. Johnny DeLuca in the 7 hole has also been very good. 256 average for a guy that doesn't have, the best bat-to-ball skills. Has hit a little bit of a cold spell. He was hitting 300 for the first 2 months or so. So he's been very, very good for our team. And then our last 2 spots, David Hamilton, a guy we want to replace, batting sub 220. I think the experiment with him is kind of concluded. We know that it's just not going to be the case, that we want to keep him around. And then Edgar Caro, a younger guy, only 24 years old, still progressing in a lot of categories. I think he's going to be good. His slugging is the issue. He's getting, decent contact. He's just not hitting for big, doubles or anything like that. He's staying on that first base spot. So if he can drive that up, his OPS will look a lot better, and we'll be pretty happy with that. And then even the guys on the bench have done really well. Joey Bart was a good signing. Lourdes Gurriel Jr. was just a kind of a fill-in spot for our younger guys to develop. We thought they were going to come up sooner, but they didn't. And Stone Garrett also has had a good season, 273 average. And then Eggy Rosario, a little bit lower than what I thought he would be than since last season. He had a really good year last year, a 760 OPS. Kind of falls off this year. Hopefully he can get back to those numbers because we did sign him to a decent contract in the offseason. So I'd love to see that pan out at some point. And then we move on to our pitching rotation, which has been really good, pretty consistent all the way top to bottom, except for Edward Cabrera, which is a year in and year out issue. He has a 5.68 ERA. It's lower than it was. It was up to like a 6 at some point, but he's had 2 decent outings in the last 2 to drop it just a smidge. But he's, progressing in the attributes categories, 85 overall, tied for our best pitcher on the team. He just needs to try to drive that ERA down. And then Dean Krimmer, an amazing signing, a 3.18 ERA with a whip around 1.3. And then Chris Patton, our rookie coming up from the AAA ranks this year, has been pretty serviceable. 55 strikeouts and 74 innings of work, a sub-4 ERA. The whip's a little bloated, about 1.5. You would like to see that lower, about 1.3 to 1.4. But I think in his first year, he's done exceptional. Joey Cantillo has been the best pitcher on the staff. 113 strikeouts and 109 innings, around a 3 ERA, a 1.3 whip. Has been very, very good. I think he's going to be a decent WAR player. Yeah, 2.4 WAR, which is going to match his season totals the first season we had him. So he's going to be able to get more because it's not even over. We still have, 2 months left in the season. So he'll be able to do that coming into his 4th year of service as well. And then moving on to the bullpen, Micah Bell has been very strong out of the long relief role position for us. But our middle relievers has been kind of, to be desired. 5.43 ERA, 5 ERA. Jonathan Loaizaga has gotten better in the last couple weeks, but he was bloated early on. But the whip numbers for him are good. And then the whip numbers for Hunter Harvey, who we signed out of free agency, just kind of feel because we had so many injuries throughout the middle of the season, has been a solid acquisition for us. A 1.1 whip, very, very good. Almost 1 strikeout per inning pitched. So very, very nice. And then Gregory Soto, who we just signed to a 2-year contract, sub-3 ERA, 1.09 whip, 49 strikeouts and 46 innings of work. And then Gregory Santos, another good outing for him, another good season. And then Pete Fairbanks rounding out the bullpen with 48 strikeouts and 42 innings of work with a sub-2 almost ERA. Very, very good stuff from the 6'6" righty. But as we get out of this video, I know there was just a ton of talk in the last couple, minutes, but we had to kind of get through some of the bigger points of the season. So I hope you all enjoyed today's episode. Let me know down in the comments what you all think. We missed big on that draft pick, I know for sure. It's such a gut-wrenching thing. But next episode, we'll get into the September call-ups. It's in 30 days. We'll cover some of the stuff in August that we missed we're going to kind of get through that in, off screen and kind of pick up there and try to push into the last part of the season to see if we can get a spot in the playoffs. But I'm hopeful that we can. So I hope you all enjoyed today's episode. If you did, leave a like down below, hit that subscription button if you're not subscribed. And if you are, just double check for me. You may think you are, but you might not be. But I appreciate y'all being here. I'm glad y'all tuned in today, and I'll catch y'all in the next episode, episode 25 of our Nashville Stars expansion franchise series. And a huge shout out to Chris, our very first premium channel member. Thanks for all your support, man. It's really appreciated.